Okay, we're going to speak now for a few minutes about the Assyrians. They came from the north, and they were a cruel and merciless people. Their cruelty was the end result of being plundered themselves many times. The first great king of Assyria, a man named Tiglath-Pileser I, was a peculiar case. Rather than destroy the lands he conquered, he took care to build them back up. He restored ziggurats and other temples as he came across them, yet he ruled by terror. This is a description of one of his battles. With their 20,000 warriors and 5 kings I fought, and I defeated them. Their blood I let flow in the valleys and on the high levels of the mountains. I cut off their heads, and outside their cities, like heaps of grain, I piled them up. I burned their cities with fire. I demolished them. I cleared them away. Some real nice fellows are largely responsible for the art that we marvel at, almost as strange a combination as the hunter-artist that we studied in the cave paintings. The Assyrian kings saw themselves as kings of the world. This is a reconstruction drawing of the citadel of Sargon II from Khorsabad in Iraq, dating from around 742 to 706 BC. Now, Sargon II's city and palace took over 10 years to build after he decided to move his capital from Calah to Khorsabad. The palace itself, the palace alone, covered 25 acres with over 200 courtyards and rooms. The citadel was conceived of as a model of the cosmos, with the palace at the center, with its ziggurats stretching high toward the heavens. Long, narrow rooms and massive side walls suggest brick barrel vaults were used to cover the structure at one point. Now, the city and palace was in all likelihood in direct proportion to the ego of Sargon II. A mile and a half of alabaster and limestone reliefs adorned the walls of this palace. The king was depicted as the protector and renewer of life in these reliefs. Here is the gate of the citadel of Sargon II. Now, every aspect of the palace was meant to overwhelm those who saw it. The Lamassu was a guardian of the king's throne room. This composite creature that you see here was charged with the duties to prevent evil spirits from entering the throne room. Now, the different aspects of the figure symbolize different ideas. The bull's body symbolizes the power of life. The wings link it with celestial regions. The horn crown gives it a divine stature, and the human face outlines its relationship to the king. Now, the Lamassu is of a gigantic scale. Look at the man standing on the left beside it to get a sense of this scale. Now, this gate differs greatly from the lion gate that we've looked at previously, in that the details are more naturalistic, albeit brutal. And we have a combination of the old convention of profile with a full face view, and the relationship of the Lamassu to the wall is stronger, as opposed to the way the figures in the lion's gate just appeared to be emerging from the wall. Here we have a relief of the king killing lions from the palace in Calah, Iraq, 850 BC. This is limestone, around 3 by 8 feet. The marvelous reliefs are typical of the Assyrian Empire. This image of the king is part of a brilliant narrative in which the images tell stories strongly. These reports in sculpture are much like writing, but the three-dimensional quality of them emphasizes naturalistic concerns and brings attention to the greatness of the king, what with his cable-like arms and cool demeanor in the midst of battle. Here is a dying lioness from Iran, dates from around 650 BC, limestone, 13-inch tall figure. Now, both the nobility of the animal and the greatness of the king for killing it are portrayed in this dying lioness. This is a magnificent example of low relief sculpture in which the figure here almost turns in space, despite the incredibly shallow actual space. Very fine lines also characterize the finest relief sculpture from this period. This is almost like a drawing in stone. Now, Babylon enjoyed a brief, if notorious, revival in the years 612 to 538 BC. The Tower of Babel dominated the rebuilt city, rising to a height of 300 feet. Now, what were they trying to accomplish with this colossal ziggurat? They were trying to reach the heavens. Today, this is an absurd notion, yet it shows what a different view of gods was held at that time. The artificial hanging gardens of Babylon was also regarded as one of the wonders of the ancient world. This is the Ishtar Gate from Babylon in Iraq from 575 BC. Now, this is glazed brick. The magnificent Ishtar Gate dates from this time period as well, and this is one of the most fabulous color achievements of an architectural nature to this day, as well as a splendid relief sculpture created by the shaped and enameled bricks. If you think about it, color is probably the least utilized element in all of architecture, something that we often just take for granted, but look what a splendid effect it has in the Ishtar Gate. We're going to close by looking at ancient Iran. Now, architecture and sculpture both make great strides in the art of the Persians. Persian art has long been criticized for being wholly derivative of other people's art. While they did take many ideas from other cultures, they put them together in such a way as to forge a new voice with which they made a number of innovations. This is the audience hall of Darius and Xerxes from Persepolis in Iran, dating from around 500 BC. Now, one such innovation in architecture is clearly seen here in the greater regard for space and courtyards in the ruins of this audience hall of Darius and Xerxes. These vast columns that we see were each 40 feet high. Now, the sheer volume of this space becomes much more important than in architecture of the past. And here we have Darius and Xerxes giving audience from around 490 BC, limestone. The height of this relief is almost 8.5 feet tall. Now, two innovations are evident in the relief sculpture seen here. What are they? What's different about these figures? First off, we have the introduction of the concept of the shoulders seen in profile. If you recall the sculpture that we've looked at up to this point in the class, we see the legs and the head in profile, but the shoulders are frontal. So here we have the shoulders in profile. And second major important feature here is that the figures are relaxed, as opposed to the tense muscular figures that we've seen and that were done in order to glorify the kings. Now, I want to close by asking a question. Can eclecticism be avoided? Hardly, as later periods are more open to influence. The only way that you can make truly original art is to become so familiar with all art of the past that it becomes second nature to you.